Hello everyone, this is James from Wanderlust FP, and today I'm going to show you how to batch edit and export images from Photoshop. So you've got a bunch of images and you'd like to do some batch editing on them. Maybe you want to resize them, add a watermark, desaturate them or something like that, and you want to avoid doing each image independently. So the first thing you want to do is put all of your images that you want to edit in one folder together. Find the first image and open it in Photoshop. Now, because I'm working with raw images, the first thing that's going to appear is my raw dialog box. Now, for this process to work, you need to skip this section. You will get the opportunity to make these changes later, but I'll flag that up when it comes. So we've opened our image in Photoshop, and the next step is to create an action. You can do that by clicking on this button here and finding the Actions tab. If you don't have the Actions tab already set up, then you can just go to Windows and select Actions, or press Option F9 if you're on a Mac. So once the action panel is open, you need to click on this little folder here to create a new set. And the first thing you need to do is name it, so I'm just going to call it a new set 1. And once you've created your new set, you can then store your actions within it. So to start an action, you have to click on this little icon down here that looks like the new layer button, and that will create a new action. Because all the images I'm working with are landscape, I'm going to call this action Action 1, Action Resize Size Land, and record. So what this is going to do is record every action that I perform in Photoshop until I click the stop button. So in this instance, what I'd like to do is resize my image. So I'm going to click Image, Resize, and I'm going to change the width just to any number that I like. So for this instance, I'm going to put it at 1000 and click OK. And now I've scaled my image down. I'd also like to place a watermark on it. So to do that, I'm going to go to File, select Place, and you need to navigate to the folder that has your watermark in. In this instance, mine's already here, and my watermark is ready, and then I'll just select it and click Place. Now my watermark is an Illustrator file, so it's a vector graphic, so I can scale it and manipulate it without it losing any quality. So I'll just scale it down to a size that I think's good and put it in a location that works okay for this image. Now, depending on the types of images that you're using, you may have to change the location, and therefore you might have to set up different actions for different groups of images. Hence why I'm only working with landscape images at the moment. So hit return, and I'd also like to just change the color of this. So I'm going to add in a blending mode, and I'm going to change the color by adding a color overlay. I'm just going to change it to black and select OK, and then I'm going to decrease the opacity down to something like 46%. That looks pretty good to me. Again, you don't have to do it like this. You can do any color or anything you want. This is just what I'm doing for this example. And I'll just show you how the actions work. So you can see here, this is my set that I've created, Action Resize Land. And these are the different steps that I've gone through. And if you click on the drop-down menu for each step, you can see the details of what you've applied. So here's the size change and the width change that I did, and it scaled the image based on its proportions, so it kept it all the same aspect ratio and everything like that. If you make a mistake at any point during this process, you can just select one of the stages and click the bin button, and then it will delete it for you. So you don't have to do a perfect run every time, or if you do too many steps and you want to modify it later, you can move them around and you can also delete them. So you can change the order and you can add and remove them as well. So you don't need to worry about doing it in one fluid motion from start to finish. So now that I've finished, I've placed my watermark and I've scaled my image down to the right size. I'm just going to click on the stop button. So those are my actions complete. The next thing to do is to start processing all of my images. So to do that, I'm going to go into File and select Scripts and select the top one in the list, which is Image Processor. This brings up the Image Processor dialog box. So the first thing you want to do is select the folder that contains all of the images that you want to edit. Now, because I prepared all my images in advance and put them all in the same folder, it's nice and easy for me to do. That's why I said at the beginning it's better if you put them all in one location. And click open when you found the folder. You can include subfolders if you want to. So if you've got a hierarchy system where you've got lots of photos in different folders, you can include all the subfolders within that as well. But the only other folder I have in there, which would be a subfolder, is my logo, and I don't want to do anything to that, so I'll leave that blank. And this option here where it says open first image and apply settings, this is helpful if you're working with raw images. So because I'm working with raw images, I'm going to want to tick this, and what it's going to do is bring up that raw dialog box for the first image, and it'll let me apply those settings, and I'll run through that when we get a little bit closer to it. Option number 2 is to select the location in which you want to save it. Now, you can save it anywhere you like. However, it's important to note that the different file types that you apply, Photoshop will make a new folder for each file type. So in option 3, I've selected JPEG as my file type that I want to save my images out at. What Photoshop will do is place a new folder titled JPEG in the same location as my original images. So they're not all going to get mixed up. You don't need to worry about having lots of different files with all the same name in the same folder. Photoshop will distribute them into individual folders based on the file type. So if you want to leave them in the same location, that's fine. You can also set the quality here. So if you're working on internet, you may want to tone it down, or you might want to increase it. It's up to you. And you could do size if you want to, but we've already done that. And again, because you might be working with the internet, you can convert it to RGB if you want to. And you can also save it as PSD and TIFF, but I just want to do JPEG for this instance. And the fourth and final step is where you select the action that you've just created. So for me, that's new set 1. And the only action that I have in new set 1, which is the one that you watched me create, is action resize land. So I'm going to select that. And you can add some copyright information here if you want to, so maybe your name or something like that. That's just going to be metadata. It won't appear anywhere on your image. But if someone were to try and download it off the internet or something like that, that'll get stored within the file's details, so you could essentially prove that it was yours. Again, you don't have to fill that part out if you don't want to. The most important thing are the other steps that I've listed. And once you've done that, you just click the Run button and Photoshop will start to process your images. So let's click Run. And the first image that has opened has appeared with the dialog box. So this is our raw dialog box. Now, the only issue that you might find with this is that if you've got images shot in lots of different places and you make changes to the exposure, contrast, highlights, white balance, etc., you're not going to get a customized adjustment for each image. What's going to happen is you're just going to apply like a global setting. So if you're in a controlled situation, for example, a studio, and maybe you want to change the white balance to something different like daylight, or maybe, let's go tungsten, just because it's a really big difference so you can see it. So you know that all of your images, you want to change the white balance to a different setting. That's okay to do here. It's just important to note that you're not going to get to tweak these options for all of the other images. You're only going to get to do it for the first image, and then they'll be applied to all of the other images based on the settings that you apply here. And once you're done and you've got your settings ready, click Open Image. And Photoshop will start to process all of your images. So Photoshop's chugged away and it's finished all of our images, and now we'll just navigate to the original folder where our original images were stored, and you can see that a new folder has been created called JPEG, and inside that are the new JPEG versions of all of my images. And if I just click on the first image, hit the info button, and let's do the last one just so you can see the comparison. You can see that they've been changed to .jpeg and the dimensions have been changed on both images. If I open one of the images, you can see that my watermark has been applied and it's got that horrible, disgusting blue tungsten white balance that's been applied. And that's happened on every image. There's my logo, horrible blue tungsten, and they've all been scaled down. So that's how you batch edit images in Photoshop. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them. Thanks for watching, guys.